Hi everyone, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. Today I want to speak about the European Union Migration and Asylum Pact that passed back in June last year with a vote of 79 for and 72 against. This caused major dissatisfaction in our society because it's a further erosion of our national sovereignty. Now, what's really important around this is that yesterday there was a press release by the Department of Justice and Home Affairs and Migration that Jim O'Callaghan is the Minister for, and it stated that the government's approval to submit Ireland's national implementation plan for the European Union Asylum and Migration Commission is working ahead at full pace. Now, this has to go through into legislation by 2026, June of 2026. But according to the Junior Minister, Colin Brophy of Fine Gael, he said that they're not waiting until 2026. So again, this is an absolutely disgraceful attack on our sovereignty, and again, offers over the control of our borders to the European Union. We've seen that for years and years in our society, where our sovereignty has been eroded by the political establishment. In particular, we saw the bank bailout, where over 43% of the total European banking debt was foisted upon the people of Ireland because they had done a deal with the International Monetary Funds, the European Central Bank and the European Union at our expense. And of course, we all know who benefited from that. The vulture funds, the very rich in society, the wealthier got wealthier. And of course, it was ordinary people that suffered because of the devastating cut to public services with austerity. Now, what's also very revealing with this is that how this has come to pass in Ireland. Now, I did a video a number of months ago about the EU Migration Pact, so I'll probably add a link in the comments below, and please let me know what you think of this further erosion of Irish neutrality. Of course, a number of weeks ago, Conor McGregor said if he was become president, he would put this to the people. But now the plan is to fast track to get the pieces of legislation in place so they can get this into law by November of this year. Coincidentally, there's a presidential election around that period as well. So it's trying to ram through this legislation, and it shows really where the priorities lie with the Irish political establishment, because we've seen a dramatic increase in the population over the last number of years. At the same time, we've seen a big push towards more of a centralised plan in the European Union. And this comes from the drive towards having a consolidated plan where member states are essentially beholden to the bureaucrats in an office in Brussels that will decide on the quotas, how many to take, and if you can't take, you will be fined up to €20,000 for every person that you can take according to their quotas. So essentially it hands over the control of the borders and the immigration system to the European Union. Isn't that what they always wanted? But of course, our borders have been decimated because of the government policies. But again, listen, you know who benefits? The very wealthy, the big commercial property owners, the people benefiting from the immigration industrial complex, and those employers in terms of cheap labour. And who was affected most of all? The working class, obviously. So again, this pushes on pressure on services, on resources, lack of integration, and major issues in our society. But again, it doesn't affect the very wealthy. So why should they really be concerned by this? And of course, it's been the European People's Party that has been pushing this for a long number of years. And who was the head of the European People's Party at one point, and who was appointed there as Minister for European Affairs a number of years ago? Back in 2018, it was Helen McEntee who became the president, actually 2019, the president of the European People's Party. Now, she became Minister for European Affairs. Leo Varadkar appointed her in 2018, and subsequently, they always push this agenda to try and get a more rounded approach in the European Union and more of a centralised control and of the immigration system. And this has been the push through the European Commission, that really about fundamentally controlling our borders, not to mention the monetary and fiscal policy and the currency as well. Now, they issued a migration position paper back in 2020, and of course, who became Minister for Justice in 2020, Helen McEntee. She was appointed, and she had powers on the asylum and the deportation system and the immigration system as well. Now, in 2020, the same year as well, later on that year, the European Commission decided on pushing this mandatory solidarity. This is part of this all concerted approach across the European Union that I've been speaking about, that was following on from this white paper. And of course, McEntee was all too willing and able to push this through, and she supported this migration pact. And this is where it all started going wrong in Ireland, because they pushed it on, and Leo Varadkar has also said that this was the way to go. And they were the ones who have been part of the European People's Party back in 2018 that started pushing these white papers and pushing it into law. And now essentially that the Irish government are trying to get the piece of legislation together in our legislation to push this forward by November this year. Now, we already know in Ireland 70% of the legislation is transposed from the European Union. Even Sean Kelly, Fine Gael MEP, said he didn't want to go for election in Ireland. He said because all the power lies in Brussels. Well, that says it all about the talking shop that it all has become, because we're just sold out our sovereignty to the European Union. What they're doing now is controlling the agenda in the emphasis of pursuing the single market. And we've seen already that people like Simon Coveney, who jumped off the ship a number of months ago, and on a big pension, mind. And he was also a big globalist, good friend of Peter Sutherland, and of course went to Bilderberg Group meetings. He said by 2040 there will be 6 to 7 million people in the population according to Project 2040. Some people estimate it could be well in excess of that. So this is part of the plan to further erode our sovereignty, our independence and control over our basic policies of the state. Now, Article 5 of the Constitution states that the policy of the state should derive from the people. The people fundamentally and ultimately are sovereign. So it should be put to the people in a referendum. But of course, the political establishment don't want to talk about it. And it's interesting that this happened at the same time when they were all having their major fiasco in the Dáil, that distracted from those other serious pressing issues that are happening in Irish society that go unnoticed and unchecked and unremarked by the media class, who are completely captured by the political establishment and the billionaires and the corporations at the expense of ordinary people. We need to take power back to our communities, back to our cities, back to our towns, back to our villages, back to our country, where people have a say, and this should be put to the people, like so many policies that are being centralised and controlled from a top down in terms of Brussels and in terms of people like van der Leyen, unelected leader of the European Union. So thanks for the support of my videos, really appreciate them. Please press subscribe and please share my videos as well to any groups you have, WhatsApp groups, friends as well, to get the real message out to what's really going on in Irish society. We need to start standing up for our interests here in Ireland. So thanks for the support and slán. Take care. Bye bye.